Hail and well met, gentle listeners, to Uncultured Universe. That's not the mood. We don't want that. Here we go. Hail and well met, gentle listeners, to Uncultured Universe, where comrades share in the revelry of cinematic and melodious marvels, enriching each other's souls with the fruits of culture. I, Justin, thy humble guide, through this cultural labyrinth, doth stand before thee. Beside me, in the radiant glow of our unexplored realm, stands Joe, whose charm and wit doth illuminate the stage of our uncultured odyssey. Upon this day, we cast our gaze upon the immortal tale of love's tumultuous journey, where fate and passion intertwine in Baz Luhrmann's opus, Romeo and Juliet. Verily, 28 years hence, or 1996. Let's take a look at this trailer, Joe. Incredible. We're talking about William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, directed by Baz Luhrmann. Joe, you had never seen this before. Give me some hot takes right now.
Verily, Justin, extremely verily.
So verily.
Listen, I have so many positive things to say about this movie. I need to kick this off with an absolute caveat. I am not a Shakespeare or literary scholar in any way, so I just apologize for anything I say about Shakespeare in this episode.
Nor I.
Yeah. We this podcast is fully about one of us trying to kind of shed a little bit more cultural light on the other. And what better way than this movie? But I still there may be areas where I am still a little in the dark, and forgive me for those. That being said, what a movie. What a step forward for Baz if we're talking about this little mini series that we're having.
My God, yeah.
From Strictly Ballroom to here.
That's like 15,000 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Yeah, you can absolutely see this and Moulin Rouge. We're talking about Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, by the way. This and Moulin Rouge are definitely in orbit with each other, and Strictly Ballroom is kind of like back in Houston. But they still there are remnants of each other throughout, and so what a nice way to kind of cap off Baz Luhrmann's Red Curtain trilogy. We start in the most ridiculous order. We started with Moulin Rouge a year ago.
Yeah.
We covered Strictly Ballroom earlier this month, and then we're ending in the middle with Romeo plus Juliet, which is a staggering movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so glad you that's your first kind of touch on it, right? We did the machete version, right? We watched the third in the trilogy, then we watched number 1, and then we ended with number 2. We're finishing strong with The Empire Strikes Back here. In the
I did
trilogy.
Danny Trejo's cameo in Romeo and Juliet.
It's amazing. But like you said, we're wrapping up the Baz Luhrmann, and based on just all that I know about Baz Luhrmann as a director, this is my first encounter with his directorial prowess, his eye for creating and telling a story. And this is what I think of when I hear Baz Luhrmann directs, right? So when I saw or even heard that they were gonna do an Elvis biopic and he was gonna direct, I was like, okay, so it's gonna look kind of like this, maybe, which I still haven't seen yet. But this is just where I put him in of just like fast moving camera angles, tremendous performances, and then an absolute banger of a soundtrack.
It also really kind of starts like to really define what a Baz Luhrmann movie is in a way that Strictly Ballroom doesn't. And I wonder if that's because like it's very much the start of like Baz Luhrmann's take on blank, whereas
Yeah,
Strictly Ballroom, don't quote me on this, but it's maybe more of an original story instead of like Baz
feels
Luhrmann
like it.
takes Romeo and Juliet, takes this like Moulin Rouge, which I think is based off of an older story, takes Elvis's life and gives his own spin, right?
Oh, yeah, and then
The
Great
Great Gatsby,
Gatsby, yeah.
yeah. Australia is different. Australia is Baz Luhrmann adapts a country, um,
And he did a great job, with
but
2 Australian actors, right?
I mean, it begins the wheel of like, wow, like what is Baz Luhrmann's take on this well-known story or thing going to be? And
What
so
what do you wanna see Baz Luhrmann take on next? What great either, like, literary
space,
class space? Okay, so, like
yeah.
like Baz Luhrmann does a Star Trek movie or does, you know what? Baz Luhrmann does Dune would've been cool.
Baz Luhrmann's Dune would be amazing. You know what I was actually thinking was like the closest companion, I guess, like comparison to this movie, Romeo and Juliet in the 90s,
Mhm.
was The Fifth Element, which is like Luc Besson is like
They're
kind
like
of
best
Baz
friends.
Luhrmann do in space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like best friends, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
France meets Australia, but it still has that same level of like it's not cyberpunk really in Romeo and Juliet, but it's very much like the way that the camera kind of cuts and moves almost like on a beat, and it's very much like cling clang, and it's like the dirtiness of the streets out there.
Yeah,
But everything's also like extremely colorful. It felt very Fifth Element to me.
right, yeah, you could watch those movies side by side in parallel and definitely draw some comparisons for sure of just the wacky, over the top, but still very beautiful to look at and still really compelling performances, I feel like.
Yeah,
Mm, but yeah, this one is, just like a shot out the gate comparatively. What year was Strictly Ballroom? 91?
yes, I should know this.
I think it was 91. That feels right. 91 or 92, but still, 4 years later to do this movie of, a beloved tale of, star-crossed lovers, 2 star-crossed lovers. Everyone knows how it goes and how it ends and the types of things that you're gonna hear and things like that, but he really threw this on its head and in ways that I don't think Shakespeare has been visited before. Prior to all of this, it's been pretty faithful adaptations. I know the same year, Kenneth Branagh did Hamlet, I think, 1996.
I think it
Um,
was there's a modern retelling of Hamlet that's maybe like a couple years later, or maybe the next year. Are you talking about the Ethan Hawke one?
Maybe, I don't know.
Kenneth Branagh does like the Much Ado About Nothing, maybe.
I think he's dabbled in a bunch of Shakespearean work, but those are all,
Right.
like, very sort of, at least close to the time period in terms of just interpretations, Julius Caesar and all this stuff from the '60s and '70s and Charlton Heston and all that. But this one is just like a punk rock music video retelling of this beloved story, and I love it so much.
Right. I mean, obviously the biggest gamble that Baz is kind of playing here is that he has this like star-studded cast of like teen heartthrobs, and he's putting them in this movie directed at teens, but the language is fully Shakespeare. The script is them actually saying Shakespeare's actual words
Yeah.
within like a modern setting of what is maybe Los Angeles. Yes, is that ever
Uh,
really confirmed?
it's in Verona Beach, so it's
Right.
kind of like LA, kind of thing. But it's still like our fair Verona, but it's just Verona Beach. So it's just a fake place, but not really. You know what I mean?
And listen, like we're called Uncultured Universe for a reason.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
because part of me, a very small, like monkey brain, deepest layer of my subconscious part of me was like, okay, maybe there's a reason we don't talk like this anymore because some of this sounds insane. But then
Yeah.
like 90% of the time I was like, this actually translates the emotions and the the setting and the action of a modern movie like surprisingly well.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the language really isn't the issue here. It kind of just adds an extra bit of spice to it.
Mm,
And I was surprised. I did have to like turn on subtitles halfway through, just
a hundred
to make
percent.
sure like I wasn't like missing anything. I'm not stupid, but like they spell things weird sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
a lot of extra apostrophes and deleting of random letters every so often. A lot of haths and doths. Wild stuff. Yeah, like I had to watch this with subtitles this last go around because I do want to catch everything.
mhm.
But yeah, like you said, the performances of getting the point across, getting the emotion, it doesn't really matter what they're saying. You can kind of tell what's going on in the scene. And I'll touch on a bit like my first introduction to Romeo and Juliet and the readings of the story and all that kind of stuff. But before we get too much deeper, um, let me hit you over the head with some numbers and some facts and some figures of sorts, and then we'll just kind of
Give
go
them
from
to
there.
me. Yeah.
So yeah, so directed by Baz Luhrmann, released November 1st, 1996, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes, Brian Dennehy, John Leguizamo, Harold Perrineau, Pete Postlethwaite, Paul Sorvino, and Diane Venora. 147 million at the box office against their paltry budget of 14.5 million. You look at those numbers compared to Strictly Ballroom, this definitely shot him into the upper echelon of
He's
filmmakers.
leveling up. Yeah.
He absolutely is. I can't believe that I mean, I can, but like, hey, this your first movie, Strictly Ballroom, did pretty good. You did all right with a moderate budget and shooting on location in like a little rinky dink dance studio. Here, take this giant thing, and with all these star-studded actors, and here's $14 million. Make a blockbuster. How about
Mhm.
that? Incredible, and he delivered 100%. Um, Natalie Portman originally had the role of young Juliet, but during rehearsals, it was deemed that she looked entirely too young, playing opposite of Leonardo, who was 21 at the time. So, I
Yeah,
mean
you
that
kind of have to watch out for that.
you gotta watch out for that. He started young in the mid '90s. Sarah Michelle Gellar also turned down the role due to scheduling conflicts. Filming Buffy and Scooby Doo and things like that. So
Was this early Buffy? When was Buffy happening?
Buffy was like '97, I think, when it dropped. So she was like just about to do Buffy, or like
Okay.
so. But I think Claire Danes is phenomenal in this role, opposite of Leonardo. I have some thoughts on performances, but we'll get to those a little bit later. Um, let's see some other fun things here. Christian Bale read for Mercutio, which would have been cool, I guess, but Harold
Harold
Perrineau, holy
Harold's on
fuck.
another level on this one.
Definite, just early out the gate. We're going to go ahead and call it right now, folks. MVP of this film is Harold Perrineau as Mercutio. Just absolutely fucking killing it and taking it to the next level, like you said.
Like it's he seems to be the one who takes advantage of the Shakespearean affect the most, I guess.
Yeah.
Like who the dramatic language he's saying kind of sounds the most natural coming out of him just because he's like he's
He's
going 1,000
owning
miles an hour with it.
he's
Yeah.
owning it and, delivering it in such a convincing way that makes it just so much fun.
Yeah.
And you can't take your eyes off of him whenever he's on screen. Even when he's dressed in drag, just dancing his ass off, and it's
He
just incredible.
I wasn't expecting him to be kind of my favorite part. Well, I have two favorite parts of this movie. Kind of my one of my favorite parts of this movie because my only really like inroad to Harold Perrineau is Lost. And he
Yes.
plays like it's not really fair because the writers kind of did him dirty, but he plays like one of my least favorite characters. He's kind of a bummer on that show. Um, but in this one, he kind of just really gets to let loose. And
God.
like one of my notes that we talked about with Strictly Ballroom is that Baz Luhrmann's really not afraid to like show his actors, and the actors aren't really afraid in his movies to be like shown in what would be considered like an unflattering light, like a lot of close-ups, a lot of like mouth work, a lot of like fisheye lens type things.
Yeah.
But I feel like everyone is fucking game in this movie, the same way they were with Strictly Ballroom, the same way they were with Moulin
Moulin
Rouge.
Rouge.
Like
Yeah.
he's able to kind of like uh, incite something within these actors where it's just like I'm going to shoot you and this camera's going to look insane. But also like the energy that this movie has is just like pulsating, you know?
I know. From the jump, like you get the super cool introduction. That's the typical line of the play. In our fair city of Verona, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But it's coming from like a newscast,
I
which
love
already is
that.
so cool, and it's
I
just
love
like
that so much. It's like a
it's a,
framing device.
oh
Oh,
god, it's so genius because like that's what it is. Like it's coming across that whole part of the play and the story comes across as like you would read it in a newspaper or it's the prologue to the story kind of a thing. And you're automatically just be like, okay, that's really cool. And then it just like jump cuts to like the crazy like helicopter shots, and it's just like I feel like I'm
so
watching
many
Top
helicopters. God, they had
helicopter
like
budget.
18 helicopters in a dream with this movie. And he was like, we got to use all of them.
$10 million of the budget went to helicopters, right? Like that, I would not be surprised if that were the case. Um, Insane. Like so, from the gate, within the first 2 minutes, you're just like, I'm locked in. This is nuts because it's coming across like a music video. It's like grungy, dirty, punk rocky. Like these are the story, the time it takes place, but they're wielding guns and like
Mhm.
everyone's like sweaty and like a little bit strung out and like kind of like ripped and hot, and it's wild.
Oh, everyone's hot in this movie. I
Everyone's
and
so
like
fucking hot.
I'm sure it's normal to like have these words kind of flow off the tongue because obviously Romeo and Juliet has been performed on stage 8 million times, but like the trick with this movie is that the kind of the cadence and the affect, whatever you call it, of the words as they're using them
Mhm.
sounds so normal, sounds so conversational, like you would see in a regular movie in the 90s, that you almost get kind of lost in it. And there were periods of time where I just like didn't even notice that they were talking in like
Ins
Shakespearean rhyme, you know?
Insane speech. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's some of it every now and again it's like a Shakespearean couplet or a sonnet kind of a thing where like it rhymes every other two lines, that kind of stuff. Other times it's just, off the dome, just kind of just talking.
Mhm.
But like that first scene at the gas station, which is like such a 90s
Mhm.
opening scene with, Jamie Kennedy and
Who I thought was Seth Green, but no, it's actually throwback to Scream.
way back. I know.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then you get John Leguizamo's introduction as the Prince of Cats, which is so fucking cool. But like the things that they're saying, it kind of fits. It sort of feels like old English,
Mhm.
which it is, right? It feels like you're watching something that's filmed in London, like you're watching Train Spotting or something
Yeah.
like that. Um, just all that kind of cool stuff. And I just love that scene. It's so wacky and over the top, and it sets the tone of just like, oh, they're wielding fucking pistols, and they're like crime, opposing crime families, and it's just nuts.
You want
Um,
to you want to hear a take that no one's probably said before? Shakespeare's language pretty timeless, pretty universal.
it absolutely is. For being, 400 or 500 years old or however old it is, I have no idea. Uh,
we're still dealing with these problems today. They fit right in.
I mean, I'm okay. So, in the event of the inevitable destruction of man and the
Hmm.
downfall of society and technology, I'm going to
Yeah.
bring this back. Let's bring back this way of talking,
Yeah.
just for no unexplained reason, right? Just
You're going
uh,
to be
uh,
like that show, what, Station 11, where it's basically the apocalypse, and then they have like a traveling theater troupe going around after the apocalypse ends. It's an
absolutely,
interesting show. I need to finish
absolutely.
it.
That sounds really cool. What
Yeah.
network is that on? I need to find it. Um,
It's on HBO.
HBO, great. Um, let's do a little bit of some awards corner. I know you love this. I know you get the tingles from
Mm,
this. This movie
all
won
right.
BAFTAs. This movie took home several BAFTAs: Best Direction, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Film Music, and Best Production Design. Lots of BAFTAs. That's just like the British Oscars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
is this movie particularly British? I guess like Shakespeare. Yeah.
yeah, right. That makes sense. But I don't think there's an Australian BAFTAs version, or is there?
They have like a it's called like an ACTA, I think. It's like it's an acronym.
Hmm.
It's yeah.
Um,
Every country pretty much has like a film version of the Oscars.
they should, yeah, if they're pumping out, a bunch of banger flicks, yeah. This movie was nominated for Best Art Direction at the Academy Awards that following
Makes
year.
sense.
Yep. And Claire Danes won Best Female Performance at the MTV Movie Awards that next year in 1997. Go her.
One of our best faces, can I just say? Claire Danes.
Mm.
The way that she can just contort that damn face when she is crying. My God.
Oh God, it really just rips out your heart when she is crying and sad. You're just like, now I'm sad.
Yeah.
Like, look what
Yeah.
you've done. Look what you've done to me.
My first touch point with Claire Danes was a movie that I'm hoping we can cover at some point on this podcast. Stay tuned, folks. Little Women from '94.
Mm. Right.
Uh, she plays one of the Little Women. Um,
Is she the
but
little,
we
not the littlest woman? She's like the middlest woman.
no, Kirsten Dunst is the littlest woman. She's one of the middle ones.
Okay.
Um, but oh, the crying faces in that movie. Yes.
Oh boy. I remember I didn't watch it because I was too young for it, but MTV had a series called My So-Called Life with Claire Danes, and that was
Mm-hmm.
also a young Jared Leto as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I recall that as well. But this was also my first touch point as well for Leo DiCaprio. First touch point there. Super cool.
Yeah, it hits kind of an interesting point in his career, like on a high level, because he's not yet like crazy teen heartthrob, but this kind of starts to launch him. And then Titanic is next year, and he's
Mm,
just like in the stratosphere ever since.
right.
But this is actually post his first Oscar because he gets an Oscar nomination for Gilbert
Gilbert
Grape.
Grape. Yep.
And so he's definitely on folks' radar, but maybe not in like a sex symbol kind of way.
Yeah. No.
But boy, does this movie turn that around.
Yeah, he just gobbles up the scenery. That Baz Luhrmann just wanted him first and foremost out the gate, and I think it was from his obviously his performance from What's Eating Gilbert Grape of just like this kid has something. He's got that je ne sais quoi. He knows what
Mhm.
he's doing. He commands the camera, and he's just got that super cool, mid 90s teenage heartthrob look. He's got the wet hair that's always in his face. God, I wanted that hair so bad. Uh, I just wanted long, stringy hair that was just always falling in my face and to just smoke a cigarette, passively while I write in my journal.
They all look
Uh,
really cool.
they all
So,
look so cool.
what was your first touch point with this then? Like, was it being like a Shakespeare style movie, intensely stylized? Was that something that was on your radar at the time, or was it just like pretty people doing pretty things?
It's more so the latter, right? So 1996, I am not quite 10. I'm 9 years old. And I think I watched this probably as soon as I turned 10 when it comes to HBO.
Hmm.
A couple months following. I remember watching it in my room, like late at night. And I was like, I don't know what this is compelling. Like I'd heard of Shakespeare, but I'm in like third, fourth grade. We're not doing Shakespeare readings. We're not doing any of that. So, but I know that like William Shakespeare is a person who wrote plays 1,000 years ago or whatever.
Right.
But I kind of know about Claire Danes from watching MTV growing up. I kind of know who Leonardo DiCaprio is, but I don't know him by his first name. But I remember him from What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just like it was a very mid '90s MTV era perfectly fit in movie, right? It fits the demographic of the time. It feels like it's a MTV made for TV movie kind of a thing. So I just like couldn't help myself but watch it when it came on. And I just remember just being engrossed in the story and, not really empathizing or understanding the emotion, but I remember, like, crying at the end of just being like, "I don't understand. I know this is sad, but, like, like, what's happening? This is such an enticing tale."
Not a not a whole lot of movies I've seen look like this. Like, if we talk about scale, there's obviously like well lit moments in this movie. Again, like the art direction is fantastic. The balcony scene looks incredible in
Oh,
this
yes.
movie. But then there's a lot of the movie that's filmed on that beach, like the Verona beach, I guess. And there's like what looks like kind of like a hollowed out archway,
Stage. It's
like
a
a
stage.
stage, right?
Yeah, with
And a
the
lot of the movie is there, a lot of the confrontation is there, but there's a lot of scenes where it's just like an incredible like wide shot with like essentially the ocean in the background and like clouds overhead, and I'm like, wait, how did they actually film this? How much of this is real? How much of this is a painting because it looks like a painting? Like what kind of trickery is happening here? um it's just an incredible level up in terms of scope.
Yeah.
And there's also we talked about how there's a almost like a garishness, not really a tackiness to Lerman's '90s movies. Like you can especially see it in Strictly Ballroom with like the costuming and the insane makeup and hair. Um, and in this one, there's a neonness, there's like an electricity that kind
Ooh,
of
yeah.
pops up a lot of the times. Like obviously you're in like '90s, we're just gonna say LA. There's a griminess there, but then you get to shots like the big party sequence, the ball, the not the ballroom, the balcony sequence, and then the big funeral room at the end, which is lit by fire, but also these like blazing like electric neon crosses.
Which is insane, which is like which I had a question, like, is that comparable to your Catholic upbringing? Like, is that what church looked
No,
like? No?
no,
No, no neon? No
that
neon in
doesn't
church?
exist. No fires like that. That's not a thing. Um, but
It's
again, I
wild.
think there's. It seemed like there's maybe like a lot of, can I say, Mexican influence on this? Is that
Mm.
what her family is supposed to be? Like a little bit more Hispanic, and then his is
Yeah.
more like Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the feel, even though she looks nothing like it, but, like, her
Right.
family yeah. Her family, yeah, obviously it's 2 warring crime families, in the pits of, like, LA kind of a thing. Yeah, and
hmm
they're more, Spanish, Hispanic, that kinda thing, and then, yeah, just the whites.
Because
Um,
you have Leguizamo, who is my other favorite part of this movie. He is on another level in this movie. He is Hispanic, yes.
mhm.
You have Miriam Margolyes, Professor Sprout from Harry Potter, as
Yep,
her maid, who is British in real life, but she's playing Hispanic in this.
which is great.
Juliet's mother, who I thought was incredible,
Mhm.
um, giving like a southern accent to these Shakespearean lines sounds
Insane, but
amazing.
so good. I
I want to hear like an entire play just like in like deep south like Shakespeare.
I'm sure it
Um
exists. I'm sure that exists.
and then her dad looks like someone off the Sopranos. Like he looks Italian.
Yeah, so they're like a mix of like which I imagine just like Spanish, European kind of thing, very dark Italian, that kind of stuff. It's just an amalgam of it. But I mean, like they're like the House of Cats, right? They have their logo is like a pouncing panther or something like that. It's wild.
Very cool. Very cool. Her dad's actually, I'm looking at the Wikipedia. It's Paul Sorvino, so Mira Sorvino's dad.
That's right, Nepo baby. Uh-huh.
Fun.
Yeah. Surprised she didn't read for it. She was probably too young, probably. Mira Sorvino,
I mean,
probably just she
she
was
was around
hot
that
at the
age.
time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was on fire around here.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Yeah. So before we dig any deeper, let's just go ahead and get the two things we always forget out of the way. We'll do the plot first, and then we'll get to our cocktails, because I have some fun little bits here. But anyway, Joe, I'm going to give you 1 minute, and you are going to give me the plot to William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, as directed by Baz Luhrmann, in 1 minute. Are you ready?
1 minute to do the most famous story of all time. I'll try.
Yep. Here you go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay.
Nope. 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Baz Luhrmann's William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is set in like a 90s LA, and they use like Shakespearean language. It stars Romeo and Juliet as these kind of star-crossed lovers. They're a part of two separate families who are like business competitors, and they hate each other, and there's like gang fighting in the streets, but then their parents are like the dons of each family. They meet at a party. They immediately fall in love because they are just like yearning for love. They're both yearners, and they realize that they're a part of these warring families, and so they have to go off and get married in secret. This ultimately leads to a chain of events where Romeo's best friend is killed, and Romeo kills Juliet's cousin as a result. They kind of have to go on the run. There's a lot of misunderstanding that leads to Juliet faking her own death to be with Romeo. Romeo doesn't realize that she's faking her own death. He kills himself to be with her. She wakes up and then kills herself to be with her, and everyone feels bad. And maybe a lot of the conflict is resolved through tragedy.
Absolutely, it is. Actually, you know what, Joe? I gotta say, a lot of the times I'm just placating you by like, yeah, that was a really good plot description. That was actually very apt and well read.
It's it's a bit of a well-known story.
Yeah, even though there's like a lot of head scratching moments of just like,
Yeah.
so what was their original beef?
I
don't
purposefully
really know.
skipped over a lot at the beginning. You just kind of got to get into it
I mean,
because there's
that's
a lot of build up to actually introducing the two of them.
yeah. There is so much. There's backstory. There's Paul Rudd who shows up unexplicably
God.
as
That was the biggest
Dave,
surprise of the movie. I mean, I
I
did
know,
not realize Paul Rudd was in this, but
and
he's so perfect.
he's ridiculous and over the top. But so is
He's
everyone
he's
else.
playing his Parks and Rec character in this, which was Bobby
Bobby Newport.
Bobby Newport. He's basically like a lovable little dolt who's
He
super
is.
rich.
Yeah, and he's just trying to just like marry the next richest. He's marrying into the rich family, or just the powerful family, I should say.
I expected him to be somewhat involved in like revenge against Romeo, because I think I was thinking through the West Side Story version of this, which is also an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet,
Yep.
where Romeo dies but Juliet doesn't, but it becomes kind of like a, this guy kills this person, so this guy kills this person, so this guy kills this person, and this guy kills whatever his name is in West Side Story, Tony.
Yeah.
It's Tony, right? So
Tony is Romeo.
I expected there to be like a one more level of revenge that Paul Rudd was involved in. But no, the two dumb little lovers take care of it themselves.
Yeah, those two stupid teenagers.
They're so stupid. God
they're
love
so
them.
dumb. Like there's there's a question that came up, and I can't remember what it is, like what the answer is, but like Ryan and I were watching it, and the whole time when like Leo is like chasing down to gun the fuck down Tybalt, and it's just
Intense
like,
scene.
honestly, one of the best scenes, most well acted, I think, from Leo's part in the whole movie.
Mhm.
But of just like, what was Tybalt's original beef with Romeo, other than just like our families are at war with each other? But like, was there something more specific there, or was it just like, hey,
He
fuck that guy?
No, he gate crashed the party, and then
Was that it? I
Tybalt.
thought, but before that, they were kind of like or warring against each other a little bit.
Oh, I mean, like, yeah, it's their families hate
It's
each
just
other, so they hate each other.
yeah,
But it becomes kind of like, oh, Romeo's like encroaching on my territory, and even if he doesn't know that Romeo is literally married to his cousin at that point, like you get the sense that Romeo's maybe trying to be a little too close with this family, and so
you're
he's
too
like,
close, man.
fuck off.
Fuck that guy. Yeah, you come to my house and you try to party over here. You get the fuck out of here, man.
But it's also interesting. You get like the kind of chink the glimpses of like when he takes it too far. Like this movie's all about like machismo and stuff, and they're like stunting to each other. But then like once someone dies actually in the fight, there's like genuine shock, and you get
There's
that
like,
really in like the West Side Story version too, where the Tybalt character is like, oh fuck, this just became something else. And he takes it too far, but at that point Romeo is determined to kill him, and he does. So
God, and that's when it takes a turn. So like we watched this movie in two parts. We watched the first half, like right up until
Mhm.
Mercutio dies, and then so like we watched like the cool like sexy lovey part, and then we watched the just the super bummer half end, at the back end where just everybody dies and it's really dour. But everyone knows that that's coming. But honestly, Joe, that was a really great plot recap. Cheers to you, my friend,
Thank
um,
you.
with our
What do you got
cocktails.
there?
So this is kind of a purpley guy that I got here, but it has a friend. So this is something that I'm calling Juliet's poison and her dead Romeo. There's parentheticals and stuff. So this
Yeah.
is to represent her poison that she drinks that like deadly nightshade kind of puts her to sleep. And then this is the green poison that he buys off the crazy drug dealer guy at the pool hall to off himself. So yeah, these go
Oh yeah, that
together.
guy.
That guy. Yeah. So this is just ginger beer and Empress gin, and this is tequila and melon liqueur and some sweet stuff.
Do
So
you are you about to take a shot or do you pour it in?
I'm taking a shot,
Oh,
like Romeo does before he bites it.
yeah. Justin
Ah.
just took a shot.
Oh, and it's delicious. And then I
Chase
just
it.
got this guy. It's good.
I, of
What do
course,
you got?
thought along similar lines because we always do. I have what I'm calling a poisoned love.
Mm.
It is half a part grenadine syrup, 1 part passion fruit liqueur, 2 parts white rum, 3 parts ginger ale. Kind of mainstays in the Joe household for cocktails, as you
That's right.
guys can track. And then a maraschino cherry that kind of like drips down to the bottom, a bit of
Mm.
darkness at the center.
Little breathy.
It very much represents like ooh, like a sweet outer core, but once you get to the end of this journey, it can only end in darkness because you're both
Bitterness.
dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, all are punished, which is a hell of a way to end that whole scene of just
Yeah.
like your kids killed each other or they off themselves and it's your fault. You have to live with it. Everybody's punished. Fuck you guys. And it's such a hell of a way to end it.
That chief of police has a fucking face for the screen. Like that guy's face is incredible in terms of like delivering line work. Again, my only through line to him is through another TV show. He's on Daredevil and he kind of sucked on that show too. He didn't
Ah.
suck, but like I didn't love him as much, and so uh this movie is like kind of giving new life to a lot of actors for me. Uh,
Absolutely. Let's tug on those threads a little bit more. Let's go ahead and dive into the performances. I'm going to jump around and go there. I'm just going to just throw the first stone and say Leonardo is not at his strongest in this movie. I think a
Shots
lot
fired.
shots fucking fired. A lot of his line delivery feels like he's reading lines.
Okay.
Um, and like he's just trying to just get through the scene just to say what he needs to say. But other characters that he's bouncing off of sometimes do the same. But other people, like we've already talked about, Harold Perrineau doing Mercutio, just owning the lines and making them come to life and feel like he's actually meaning what he says as opposed to just reading fucking lines.
Hmm.
Whoever plays Benvolio, his bud, um,
His cousin, like the kind of the peacekeeper guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think he delivers the lines way better than Leonardo does,
Hmm. Hmm.
in a more convincing way. And I think that's kind of the main kind of pitfall that I have with this movie upon this rewatch is that like some of the times the language doesn't quite come through enough to make it convincing, but some of the other characters and other people are take it to that next level, like John Leguizamo, like Claire Danes, like Harold Perrineau, just
Yeah.
really just pulling you in. Other times, just like, I know you're trying to like read this line and it's mouthy and it's weird, but it's not as convincing or compelling to me. But yeah, shots fired.
Yeah, I think Romeo and Juliet in this movie, and I'm sure in the play version, are saddled with a lot of the kind of quieter, more contemplative lines. And so there's a lot more room for you to kind of notice, oh, it feels like they're kind of reading off of a page instead of
Hmm.
like shouting it to the heavens and like really kind of having an energy behind it. So there's a degree of like difficulty there. What I actually found surprised me, and I kind of like laughed at a few points is like a lot of Claire Danes line readings are like she's kind of like a horny little scamp in this. She has like some innuendo in a lot of her lines where she's
Oh
talking
yeah.
about like there's one line that definitely references Romeo's penis, and then there's another
Mm.
line where she's like waiting in bed after they're married, but they haven't like consummated the marriage, and she's just kind of like, when are we gonna when are we gonna go to Bone Town here?
I'm gonna do it again. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I
like,
thought she was great.
I slept in late. I need to leave. And she's like, no, no, no. Let's have some morning nookie. It's not that late. That's not that early. It's like, no, I need to leave or I'm going to die.
When she says like, no, that's not the sun, that's like a meteor in the sky. I love it.
Yeah, it's so
um
good. There's so many good things in here, and it's just I think she does the most convincing of the two title characters in terms of her
mhm.
line delivery. Her emotion throughout reads. I will say, and I touched on this earlier, of Leonardo when he is at his breaking point and he is hunting down Tybalt and he's, holding the gun, it's like either thou or I or both, go to greet him and he's just like sobbing and screaming at the top of his lungs. Like that is the most compelling he is. Even though
Yeah,
he's saying the same line over and over, it is so powerful. But that's his standout scene for me.
yeah, I almost, and this is almost like a complaint to Shakespeare himself, which is ridiculous, but like I almost wanted more of a direct relationship with Leonardo and Mercutio to kind of help sell that loss in him, because it seemed like he had a closer one-on-one relationship with
With
his
Benvolio.
cousin
Yeah.
Benvolio, right? And I the whole time I was thinking like, wait, is Benvolio the one who dies, who kind of like starts all of this? But no, it's obviously Mercutio. But Mercutio is kind of like going in between both families and has a relationship with both. I didn't feel the closeness of their relationship, even though he's literally introduced with a title card, which I loved. That's like Romeo's best friend,
Best friend.
Mercutio.
Yeah. I love the title cards. They're so good.
Yeah, I mean, one of my notes is like, and we see this a lot in Baz's other movies, is like he as a director just like knows what he has available to him visually and musically, and is not afraid to just like use whatever sort of filmmaking it takes to just like get the emotion across, get the point across, get the message across. And so he can have these kind of like zany little camera moves. He can put text on the screen. He can bookend the movie with this like out of body TV anchor. He
Yeah.
can have uh, this choir boy singing Desiree in like extreme close up with like them getting married and the out of focus,
God, that scene is
which
wacky.
looks incredible. It looks like, oh god, that scene looks like a postcard from somewhere I want to visit. Like,
Mhm.
can we talk about the music in this?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a whole section to talk about the music and soundtrack.
Give me some notes.
Okay, well, I mean, other than that, just the soundtrack absolutely rips. No one makes soundtracks like this anymore. Like the
Hmm.
movies don't feel quite the same without these kind of things from the 90s. Like, I don't know. I hate to sound like such an old guy of just
No.
like, man, they don't make them like they used to, or bands aren't what they used to. But like, fucking Radiohead, that track, talk show host, and like Cardigans and Desiree
Hmm.
and fuck. I think there's like the Verve or Verve pipes on there. But
Hmm.
like it's so good and it just fits flawlessly. And that kind of goes along with my earlier point of like this just feels like an MTV made for TV movie.
Yeah,
Because
it reminded me of like 10 Things I Hate About You. Just like the needle
Mhm.
drops in that movie being incredible and just like so like prototypically 90s
Yeah.
in that way.
Yeah. I love the just all the touches, the mixes of the band. Like this is the first time that I remember understanding like the soundtrack being a disconnected but still connected piece to a movie.
Hmm.
The first touch point I have is just like 1994's Forrest Gump. Same kind of thing of just like an absolute banger soundtrack that kind of takes you
Yeah.
through the story. Same kind of thing here. And then this was my first introduction to, or second really introduction to Radiohead. The first one being their hit "Creep" that everybody knows, but this one in particular, like when we first are introduced to uh, Leo's Romeo, they're playing that song that is just cemented in my brain. Anytime I hear that song, I see a lamentful Romeo on the beach,
Hmm.
writing, smoking a cigarette, kind of a thing. But another cool note is that they wrote the end title track, exit music for a film, and for a film is this film. They wrote that song for this soundtrack, which is crazy.
That the end song is like original to this movie.
Yeah, the
Oh, that's fantastic.
Baz Luhrmann came to Tom York and the rest of Radiohead and was like, "Hey, do you want to write a song for the end of this Romeo and Juliet movie that I made?" And they're like, "Yeah." So they showed him the movie, and they're like, "Great, I know what we're gonna do." And it's just this really sad acoustic track, which just absolutely bangs. And that's the song that I used for the trailer at the top, that I did. And then also another note, I know we watched at least season one of Westworld. That song is in the last scene of the
I
last
was
episode of the last season,
I was
which is
gonna
just
say that's how I know the song.
which is so good. Um, But yeah,
Uh,
so the band was shown, the preview of the movie, and they were like, "Yep, I know what we're doing." So Tom York, said, "I wrote this song as as a song written for the two people who should run away before all the bad stuff happens."
mhm.
Like, uh,
They really
uh,
should have just gotten out of there. God.
have your one night of sexual exploration with each other, and cement your love together, but then get the hell out of Dodge. Like, what are you doing? Um, because it all falls apart with the priest's, or Friar Lawrence's shoddy ass plan
He he really
he
came up with that on the damn fly, and then he regretted it for the rest of the movie. You could see it in his eyes. He's like,
immediately.
"There's no way this is going to work."
Like, never trust uh uh what is it? It's not FedEx, it's post haste. With
Oh
delivering
my
your
god, I loved the mail in this movie.
so good. And then, like, he's at the scene, he's at the counter of the place, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know, we tried to deliver, I don't know what to tell you." And he's like, "I need to write another letter to Mantua post haste." And it's just like, "No, dude, like, you need to try a different method. You need to go to the chapel and wake up Juliet before anything bad happens." And he's just like, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna write another letter." So he's really at fault. Friar Lawrence is really the bad guy at the end of this.
Yeah. Um, but the one thing that kind of surprised me with the music is I realized once the main love theme, I guess it's the Desiree song, but
Yeah.
like the score version of it. I had heard it a bunch before, and it's kind of like it's been in rotation. I listen to like musical scores, just like while I work or study or whatever. Um, so I've been listening to it for like years, and I never made the connection that it was connected to like this Romeo and Juliet movie. I always
Yeah.
thought it was like the one that was in the 60s or 70s,
Mm-mm.
because it sounds kind of old fashioned in that way. But the
No.
moment when it starts playing, when they first meet each other and they're kind of like going up and down in the elevator, kind of doing this what's it called, like this comedy of errors with like them trying to
Yeah.
avoid her parents while also just like making the fuck out in
Oh,
this
so
elevator
good.
while this score is blasting. I was like, this I know this music.
Yeah.
I am already connecting to this on a level that I didn't expect.
Yeah, it's so good. I love that part in the party scene of, so this mirrors, the scene from Moulin Rouge where it's like, "Hey, let's drop acid and go to the party and have a bad time." And it's so wild because it just crescendos, and then it just like has this nice, respite part, and they both go to the cool ass bathroom with the giant aquarium, and he sobers himself up by dunking his head in the water, which, quick tip for everybody, like, that ain't gonna do it. Um, he was still tripping balls, for a while, but, I love that scene so much because it hits this high point to this wacky, crazy party, and then it's just the sweetest moment, the meet cute of seeing each other through the fish tank. Um, there's something that, Baz Luhrmann mentioned of just like water is the connection piece for the two characters, because that's how you're
Mhm.
kind of introduced to them, and that's kind of the through line through their story in some bits, but um, it doesn't really
Yeah,
come to fruition totally, but it's pretty neat.
they're kind of their big emotional apex takes place in like a pool, and
Mhm.
that the entire balcony scene, kept thinking the whole time. So it's like it's Romeo coming back to see Juliet after the party's over. They both realize they're part of like these warring households, but like they just can't get enough of each other.
Can't keep
And
my
so it's
hands
the
off you.
classic like "Wherefore art thou, Romeo?" and like he's calling up to the balcony. And the whole time I was thinking like this should be like so cloying. This shouldn't work. This should feel super awkward. He climbs up like a rose trellis
Trellis,
thing.
yeah.
And then he's like following her around the pool. She doesn't know he's there for some reason. They surprise each other and then they end up in the pool. They're trying to like avoid these security guards. It
So
should
cool.
be the most insane, wacky thing, but they both just like sell it. Like you can sense the connection between them.
Hmm.
It's in their eyes. Like they're both just kind of like fascinated with each other because they're these two humans that have like finally found this piece that has been missing their whole life. And so you can't help but get kind of caught up in it. And you would believe for half a second that they would decide to get married right then and there.
Yeah, right. And she's like, "Hey, we can't do this." And he's like, "All right, well, how about we get married?" And she's like, "Done. Let's fucking do this. Drop your pants right now." And then it's so good and so sweet. You mentioned, the yearning scene, the communal yearning between the two, and the infamous balcony scene. I wanted to share with you one of my favorite things from the era of high COVID. Um, uh,
Oh,
and we'll talk about it. Let's see.
are you hearing something, Justin? I'm not hearing it.
Are you not hearing anything? Oh shit.
No.
Damn. I thought you would be hearing this whole time. All right. Well, disregard everybody. I was trying to play uh uh Pedro Pascal reading uh the soliloquy from Romeo as he reads.
Does he have
Um
theater training? Is that what we're meant to believe here?
oh yeah, and but he's doing it. Hold on. Let me see if I can get this to work.
Yeah,
Uh
bear
yes,
with
no.
us, listeners.
Yes, no.
No.
No. Okay. Well, either way, it's dynamite. It's great. But he's reading it in Spanish, and it is just instant gush, because it is so good and compelling. But during the height of the pandemic, he did that, and it was super
Yeah.
cool. But yeah, this I had some other notable featured in other media, the whole Romeo and Juliet thing. From Did you ever see Hot Fuzz?
Yeah.
Do you get it now? Like, I love that whole thing. That shitty, like, local theater troupe puts on
Where
a
it ends
play.
with like the cardigans.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so funny. And they're just like she's wearing the wings and he's wearing like the armor thing on his shoulders. And they're just openly making out on the table during the end scene. It's so fucking funny. Um,
Mm.
Last thing here. So that was my other one, was just Pedro doing his fucking thing. And
I mean, I'll try and watch it afterwards. This movie does really make the argument for like we should try Shakespeare like in as many like languages and accents and dialects as possible because even the mixtures that you get in this movie between like kind of the more Hispanic Leguizamo and the pure like it, uh, not pure but like American Leonardo and Claire Danes, and then again like the Southern mother character.
yeah, it's
It's so many
bonkers.
like interesting takes on this that kind of give it a spin that you weren't really expecting.
Yeah, and it just works, you know? Okay, let me see. Did I get this right? Did I
Are
get this
you
right?
trying to do it?
I just tried to get this right.
Hablamos
Get it right.
con Neruda en diferentes tiempos, así que esta translación vive muy cerca a mi corazón.
So here it goes. Here it goes.
Silencio. ¿Qué ilumina desde aquella ventana las tinieblas? Es Julieta. Es el sol en el oriente. Surge espléndido sol y con tus rayos mata la luna enferma y envidiosa, porque tú, su doncella, eres más clara. No sirves a la luna que te envidia. Su manto de vestal es verde y triste, ninguna virgen ya lo lleva, arrójalo.
It's so good. It's so
God,
fun.
he sounds amazing. I
Right?
want to listen to that whole entire play
Well, just
with
oh
him
gosh,
playing every character.
I know, just like a fucking fistful of lotion, just having fun. It's so good. But I came across that like organically on TikTok, and I was like, oh, I haven't thought about that movie in so long. I need to go back and rewatch it, and it's so good. The last thing I wanted to talk about is, or one of the last things. Did you read this in high school? Did you read the play or the story in high school?
We did. We had this in ninth grade high school. I think
Yeah.
I was like out for some reason, like the week we discussed it. But yes, we did. I was homeschooled up until high school, so I did Merchant of Venice in eighth grade, which is kind of like a slightly more insane Shakespearean play.
Yeah.
And then this is the one that we covered at the end of ninth grade. Yeah.
Yeah, I too did this in ninth grade. I guess it's just like a Georgia standard to like
Yeah, probably.
read this ridiculous, heightened, over the top, hypersexual, crazy violent story to ninth graders, which is bonkers. But like we read the story and then we watched the movie from the 1960s. Um,
Hmm.
and it was everyone in the room had a part to read in,
Oh, that's fun.
during the thing, and I read as Benvolio, as
Ooh.
um, Romeo's cousin, but like also his best friend, question mark, but not quite as cool as Mercutio.
So you were kind of basically like, can everyone chill for a fucking second the
Can
entire
everyone
time?
chill the fuck out before something bad happens, you guys?
You guys, I think I hear the police coming.
We're gonna be fucked. Yeah. And I love that Benvolio is kind of like the voice of reason. Like towards the beginning, he's like, "Hey Romeo, like what the fuck? Weren't you just in love with Rosaline? Like what happened to her?" And he's just like, "No, no, 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 fuck that. I got somebody else in mind." And he's like, "This is bad news, man. This ain't gonna end well for you." And he's like, "No, no, no, it's fine." Anyway,
So
amazing.
I didn't miss it. Like Rosaline is an unseen character in this movie, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, there is a movie that came out a couple years ago that is about her that I
Mhm.
now want to watch. I think it has Caitlin Dever in it, and it's like a
Yeah.
comedy where it's like Rosaline's point of view. I got to
Yeah.
go look that up.
Of just being just like pushed to the side immediately. Yeah, like ridiculous. But yeah, you're right. Caitlin Dever. She's gonna be in the new season of Last of Us, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
playing a pivotal role. Speaking of Pedro,
Amazing. Oh God, you're right. Yeah. They go golfing together. It's fun.
yeah.
Last little bits here. I want to just talk about the film itself and Lerman, the Lerman of it all. So he sought out to create a movie in a way that he thought Shakespeare himself might make a movie if he were a director, which is such a unique, like weird batshit way to say, like, yeah, it's a weird movie, but like Shakespeare was a weird guy, so I'm gonna make the movie like how he would, which is kind of cool, right? Saying that, Shakespeare was obviously ahead of his time, a relentless entertainer, putting on real heavy hitting shows for audiences of all sizes, not just for the elite, not just for the dirt poor, but everybody. The thing I read was like Shakespeare's only competition were like whorehouses and like people fighting bears in a cage kind of a thing. So he like elevated society in a lot of ways, which is super cool. But yeah, a lot of the film was filmed in Mexico City. Some parts filmed in Miami, so that's kind of where it has like that Latin flair to it, maybe.
Really? So it's not like California at all. Am I completely wrong with the Los Angeles bit?
I mean, it's supposed to feel like Los Angeles with the at least the helicopters of it
Yeah.
all and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, a neat thing about the filmmaking here. Apparently, this trouble was replete with issues filming. There were hurricanes wiping out sets left and right just because of where they
Mhm.
were filming at. In fact, the Mercutio death scene was like just before the hurricane hits. So that's like all the shit blowing away and like the crazy winds that you're seeing are real hurricane force winds, which is wild.
I think that's what I was talking about. Like, how on earth did they film this? I guess it was just like unplanned, and he was like, capture it,
Get
keep
it?
rolling.
Like when the storm rolls in, like after Mercutio dies, and
Yeah.
like the sky is like blackened and all that kind of stuff.
It looks like
Obviously,
insane, like special effects. Yeah.
yeah, it was painted a little bit to kind of darken it and kind of heighten that. But yeah, overall, that was a real storm that was rolling in. Super cool.
Alrighty.
The cast and crew were constantly getting sick, just as the time frame that they were filming, and the hair and makeup person got fucking kidnapped by like a local cartel,
Oh
and
my god.
they had to pay a ransom and to get them back, which is wild. But we got a super cool movie out of it. Um, this movie is crazy, over the top, quick cuts, zooms, flash, dance, drag performance. So this was my first exposure to like what a drag performance can be, and it's
Hell yeah.
magic. It's fucking magic.
He looks great.
Yeah. Hats off to Mercutio, Harold Perrineau, just giving it. His Mercutio.
Mercusi, yeah.
Mercutio, I'll look into it. Joe, give me some other thoughts. Give me some other things before we get into our end game.
Yeah, I had a couple final thoughts here. Just talking about Baz, like the way I like boiled down his style from these three movies that I watched, like he loves a highlight. He loves like a height of something, whether
Yeah.
it's like whether it's like he's if something's beautiful, he's going to push it to be more beautiful, but if something's like insane or grotesque or whatever, he's going to push it in that direction as well.
Yeah.
And so you get these like crazy close-ups on people, you get these like uber stylized moments where everything is just super heightened, and so there's nothing that, well, there's not a lot that's particularly like average in his movies, but
No.
when they do have those moments, when you do have those like slowed down kind of low key moments, they stand out as a result.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this probably with Moulin Rouge and a little bit with Strictly Ballroom as well. Is like his normal is so heightened that he's able to use normality as kind of like a standout moment.
Yeah, and it's the great equalizer to some of those lower key moments, which helps him as a filmographer or filmmaker, help those scenes stand out and stand up against some of those crazier, flashier bits.
Mhm.
I think he got a taste for blood, like literally, of fucking just. He's like, oh, I can do tragedy like really well.
Yeah.
Like it just undercutting. Like obviously, this is a pre-written story, that kind of thing, so you knew it was coming, but he does it really, really well.
You really love to see how like 1 + 1 = 2 with like the progression of this trilogy of films that he's making, because we talked about, Strictly Ballroom is about dance as an art form. This movie is about poetry as an art form, and then Moulin Rouge is about, I think it's song, right?
Yeah.
Is what he wanted to focus on. But there are elements of all three within Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge is kind of like the apex of all of this.
The culmination of it.
You get dance, you get tragedy, you get comedy, you get like modern music mixed with like melodramatic dialogue. You get Leguizamo. Which is kind of the key piece of this.
If only he showed up in Strictly Ballroom, like that would have been great. Just like as a background character, he would have fit right in. He absolutely would have. But
low key, like is Leguizamo kind of like our most watched, because we have at least 3, right?
We should make a little tally, but yeah, like Moulin Rouge, this one, and Tu Wong Fu.
Tu Wong Fu. Yeah. God, I was going crazy there.
Well, if you've never seen Spawn, we'll throw that in there, and that'll be another Leguizamo.
I've never seen Spawn.
Oh my god! It's probably from the same year or year after. I think it was 1997 when he did Spawn.
Should just make this a Leguizamo podcast. Do all the Ice Ages.
I only saw like the first 2, so yeah, we can follow up with those. That'd be great. But yeah, I love this movie so much. It's so good. Baz Luhrmann specifically talking about him, just like aimed for the fences and then just completely knocked it into the next park over. Different sport entirely. He hit the ball out of the park and it went to the local bowling alley, got a strike, and then a pin spun around and went into a basketball to connect all the sports references. He fucking killed it with this movie. The cast, the direction, art direction, all that kind of stuff. And it is incredible.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And I can't believe you've never seen it before, but I'm so glad you have now, because it is such a rounding out, not only of the trilogy, but like in terms of just like who Baz Luhrmann is as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I would say in terms of like uber stylized like Shakespearean adaptations that also like use the language. I know they did a version of Hamlet in the 90s that maybe wasn't as well received, but if you want to check out something that is very fun and interesting to watch, check out like the Macbeth that they did in the last couple of
Ooh.
years with Denzel Washington.
Ooh,
It's the
okay.
it's the Coen brothers. It's
Ooh.
like very kind of minimal. It's black and white. It's Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand as like Lord and Lady Macbeth. It's pretty incredible. And it's like them using like the Shakespearean dialogue all the way through, but it's like these like actors at like the height of their power, just like letting it rip.
Well, I mean, like
Um,
that's to me, like Shakespeare is anytime you want to see an actor be an actor, right? There's so many like anyone who's like a really good actor has done something on screen, has done Hamlet, has done Macbeth, has done some soliloquy. Who's super hot right now? Who's the priest from Fleabag?
Andrew Scott.
Andrew Scott.
He has
Had
absolutely done theater. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Like him, you think of like Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen doing their interpretations, and obviously Kenneth Branagh and all this kind of stuff. Like actors who like fucking rip it and understand what it is to perform and be an actor's actor or performer's performer kind of a thing is it. This is who you draw from
Guys, guy, girls, girl. Yeah.
and or girls, guys, and guys who like
Guys,
girls, but
girls.
girls who dress up like that. Like it's everybody's thing.
Yeah.
This is great. I love this movie. Let's get into the end game here, baby. Yeah, that's Nine Inch Nails does Radiohead.
My word.
Joe, we're playing a game most uncultured. I'm gonna read to you. I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, maybe little bits of dialogue, either straight from the film or it's just like an amalgam description of the film.
Okay.
But these are going to be movies that we've covered on the podcast. I'm just ripping straight from you. I love that idea. But it's going to be in Shakespearean English.
So
So I'm going to read something to you, and you tell me what movie this is from. It's either a
is
line of dialogue or a description
okay. It's from the individual movies that we. I got you. I got you. Yes.
that
Okay.
we've covered. So, like, think through the Rolodex of the movies that we've covered, and yeah, just get ready for that. So
I got
let me get us some background music to set the mood because I tried to do that at the top and it didn't quite hit.
No, I can hear it. I can hear it.
Okay, this is good. This will work. All right, number one. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Thou deemest this hath no relevance on thyself. Thou dost select from thy wardrobe a garb, perchance a lackluster blue cloak, to perchance thy indifference to attire. But that garment, it is not mere blue, nay, 'tis cerulean. What movie is that?
This is the cerulean monologue from episode 1, Devil Wears Prada.
Absolutely. Question 2. Mark me, good folk. The bravest souls are those who dare to venture beyond the bounds of known realms. 'Tis the explorer who charts the course through tempestuous seas of uncertainty, guided by naught but the stars in their own indomitable spirit. Forsooth, 'tis our destiny as humankind to seek out new horizons, to cast off the chains of familiarity, and to embrace the mysteries that lie beyond.
Oh God.
Just think of the hit words that I hit in there. What am
Yeah.
I talking about? Stars, embrace new horizons,
What
seek
did
out
we
new horizons.
What did we do that was in space?
Trick question.
Is this Interstellar?
Yeah, you weren't here for it.
That's a bitchy move.
Hey, but you love that movie, so you know. Question 3. Come, mortal soul, and kneel before the Lord of Shadows. Cast aside thy futile notions of righteousness and embrace the darkness that lurks within thee. 'Tis but a small price to pay for the power and glory that await thee in the realm of eternal night. Yield to me, and together we shall rule over all creation.
Okay. Just going off of vibes, I'm gonna say legend.
That would be right.
Okay, yeah, darkness, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of this is vibes. Some of these aren't one-for-one translations.
I'm like scrambling to trying to remember all the movies that we've covered.
Yeah. All right. Number 4. Oft I have pondered the nature of memory, that fleeting wisp of time that doth bind us to our past. What folly it is to seek escape from the pains of yore, for 'tis in the crucible of remembrance that we find the true essence of our being. Though memories may fade like shadows at eventide, their imprint upon the soul doth endure, shaping the course of our lives for eternity.
Again, like themes, this feels like Eternal Sunshine.
Absolutely it is. Thank you. Well done. This is
Haunting memories, yeah.
good. Number 5. Listen, good folk, and mark me well, for I am the architect of a realm where connection are forged in the fires of innovation. 'Tis upon this canvas that I paint the portrait of a new era, where the bonds of friendship are woven within threads of information binary in nature. Behold the dawn of a revolution, where the world shall be united in a network of infinite possibilities.
What's like an extreme techno movie we've covered?
You can do it. Come on.
Did we talk about like The Matrix? No.
No. Almost. Kinda.
Oh, okay. I'm not gonna look at the list of movies. What can you give me a hint if it was my movie or yours?
This was my pick. You had
This
never
was your
seen this
pick.
movie before. Yeah.
But it's like a techno movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's technological in nature, yeah.
Fuck. Say it again.
I'm not going to say it all again, but I'll pick out some threads here and there. Threads of information, binary in nature. Connections are forged in the fires of innovation. Friendships are woven.
Oh. This is The Social Network.
This is a social network. Yeah. That's good. All right. Here we go. Number 6. Hark and attend to me, good people, a humble servant of flora and fauna alike. 'Tis in the quiet sanctum of my botanical emporium that I find solace and purpose, tending to the verdant blooms that grace my humble abode. But beware, for within the shadows lurks a menace most dire, of insatiable appetite and voracious ambition. Pray, heed my warning, lest ye fall prey to the wiles of this carnivorous fiend.
Justin, this is fantastic. Did you come up with all of these?
Fuck no.
Okay. This is Little Shop of Horrors. A Joe favorite.
A Joe favorite. Yeah, absolutely. Ashamed to admit, be unto thee. This was Chat GPT.
Oh my God.
I know.
That was amazing.
Yeah. I got a couple here. A couple more here. Take heed, travelers, and mark me well, for these woods be fraught with danger most dire. 'Tis not merely the shadows that lurk amidst the trees, but the unforeseen forces that dwell within the very heart of the forest. Beware the one that prowls in search of prey, lost souls, for its hunger knows no bounds, and its fury is unmatched by mortal hand.
In the woods?
In the woods.
Is this Trick or Treat?
No.
No.
Close to it. Close to that release.
It sounds horror-ish.
It was in the same month, or maybe a month prior to when we did this one.
Not when it came out as a movie, but like when we did.
When we talked about it, yeah.
Oh, this is Over the Garden Wall. Duh.
Absolutely. Yeah. The woods. Okay. Yeah. All right, Joe. This is the last one. You're doing great, by the way.
Hmm.
Oh, this is perfect for it. This is the perfect backdrop.
Oh.
I delight in the tiny furrow upon thy brow when thou dost regard me as if I were mad. I am enamored that even after spending the day with thee, thy scent lingers upon my attire, and I am enraptured that thou art the final soul I wish to converse with ere I retire to rest at eventide.
Oh, I got it right at the end there. This is When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, it's the final thing that and he says to her at the party.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was fun. I hate AI and everything it stands for and Elon Musk, but like that was fun to do.
You use AI in a creative way at
the way it
very
should be
least.
used. Yeah. I mean, like, who else am I going to tap as a person?
AI should be used primarily for meaningless
podcasts.
podcast games.
Absolutely. I stand by that. You heard it here, folks. Joe, that was a game most uncultured. I stole the name.
That.
I stole the name from this. I need to get you on. I need to get you on watching Dropout.tv. They do several game shows, but one of them is called Game Changer, and they did a episode called A Game Most Changed, where they had three people from a improv troupe in LA that does only Shakespeare, which is wild in and of itself. To be able to think and like make your shit rhyme and sound Shakespearean, incredible stuff. You should watch that episode. It's great.
Yeah.
Super cool, but that's where I got that from. Anyway, you did great. That was fun. Do you mind telling everybody what's next for us coming up in March? Where are we going?
I do. We're super excited to cap off our Baz Luhrmann miniseries in February. And in March, we're going to continue with focusing on a single person within the film industry. And this time we're going to be Googling the term cinematography to make sure we have our definitions correct, because we will be talking about Roger Deakins, who is a rather famous cinematographer. We're going to be focusing on a couple of his movies that are kind of on like different ends of a spectrum.
Absolutely.
I would say. Yeah. And my pick, which we're going to start out with, is a recent movie. I think it's 2019. We're going to talk about 1917, baby, which I am super excited for.
Yeah, we're going to war. It's going to be wild. I had never seen it before. This is a Joe pick, and I'm going to dance around some of the flicks that he's done without choosing the ones that we're going to do, but or to give away my pick at the end of the month. But Roger Deakins, for those of you unfamiliar, he's done movies like The Shawshank Redemption, Skyfall, Fargo, No Country for Old Men, Prisoners, Sicario. So like get that kind of visual in your mind when we start talking about these kinds of movies. He's, a cinematographer, brings to light the director's vision and has sometimes unique signatures and things like that. So it'll be interesting to kind of talk about these two movies that are, like Joe said, on complete opposite sides of the spectrum. And see what kind of
I'm very interested to see the comparisons we're able to draw here.
Yeah, absolutely. Crazy stuff. Oh, he also did Blade Runner 2049. So like
I think he did Mad Max Fury Road too. That's kind of the bigger recent one.
Yeah. So like this guy like rips. But that's what we're doing. So check us out on all the socials at Uncultured Universe. and subscribe wherever you get your podcasted casted and stuff. Anyway, just search for Uncultured Universe. There we are, YouTube and the such. Catch you guys later. Bye. Fare thee well.
Fare thee
Yeah.
well, verily.
Verily so.